Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. Welcome to Crime Talk, the most unbiased, fact-driven true crime show dedicated to delivering objective analysis grounded in verified evidence and legal proceedings. We shun sensationalism in favor of precision, ensuring every episode illuminates the complexities of criminal justice with clarity and integrity. Today, August 26th, we delve into a series of compelling developments across high-profile cases. We begin with the newly released crime scene photographs from the University of Idaho students' murders, shedding light on the tragic final moments of victim Xana Kernodle. Next, we turn to the courtroom in Florida where Jeffrey LaCase testified today in the trial of Donna Adelson. In entertainment, intersecting with law enforcement, we cover the recent arrest of Montero Lamar Hill, a.k.a. Little Nas X. Shifting to a disturbing instance of familial exploitation in Oklahoma, we discuss the charges against Dustin Walker and his wife, Cherie. And then from Alabama, we analyze the plea deal of Jessica Eden Kelly, who admitted to the 2021 murder of Mary Elizabeth Isabel by pushing her off a cliff in the National Preserve. We update the search for Travis Decker, and we'll touch on a notable legal history milestones for August 26th. We have a quote considering consciousness of guilt and how it plays out in criminal law. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, and hit that little bell for notifications. Now, before we get to the docket today, let me remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do a background search on anyone here in the United States. The results will be emailed to you literally while you wait, and you're going to find out email addresses, phone numbers, social media presence, criminal history, property records. You're going to find out if they are on a list, if you know what I mean. Go to crimetalksearch.com and sign up today. Also, it is Tuesday, so we intend to go live tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Please join us. We'll be talking about what you want to talk about, and we'll probably open up the lines as well. So feel free to call in and talk about any of the case. And remember, if you think Bryan Kohberger is innocent, you get first slot on the call-in numbers. All right, let's get to the docket for August 26th, 2025. First, police have recently disclosed over 350 crime scene photographs from the University of Idaho student murders, with additional materials anticipated to be made public in the near future. Among these images from the Idaho police are depictions of the partially consumed meal ordered by Xana Kernodle, the 20-year-old student, shortly before her death at the hands of Bryan Kohberger on November 13th of 2022. The photographs indicate that Kernodle was consuming her DoorDash delivery from Jack in the Box in the kitchen during the early morning hours when she became aware of an intruder in the residence. Now, according to statements from the Idaho State Police, Lieutenant Darren Gilbertson, investigators persist that Kernodle retrieved the delivery from the front door and proceeded to the kitchen. While eating, she likely detected unusual noises from the third floor above. Upon going up the stairs to investigate, Kernodle is believed to have encountered Kohberger in the bedroom of one of her roommates. She then attempted to escape, prompting Kohberger to pursue her downstairs, during which he reportedly discarded his knife sheath. Now, court documents note that the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, overheard a male voice stating, "It's okay, I'm here to help you," around this time. Kohberger allegedly overtook Kernodle at the entrance to her bedroom, where blood splatter evidence suggests the assault commenced. One unresolved aspect of the case involves the precise moment of Kohberger's entry into the home and Kernodle's location at that juncture. Now, timeline details reveal that the DoorDash order was placed outside the front door at 3:59 a.m., followed by Kohberger parking his vehicle in the nearby lot at 4:06 a.m., and records further show Kernodle browsing TikTok on her phone until 4:12 a.m. Mortensen reported hearing indications of an intruder in the home around this period, accompanied by footsteps between the second and third floors. Now, the victims include Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, both 21, who were killed in Mogan's third floor bedroom. Kernodle sustained over 50 stab wounds after being pursued, while her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, who was 20, was fatally attacked in his sleep, rendering him unable to assist. Now, surveillance audio from a camera approximately 50 feet from the residence captured sounds of whimpering and a loud thud at 4:17 a.m. And by 4:20 a.m., Kohberger was observed departing the area at a high speed in his car. Now, the released images, which do not depict the victims in their bedrooms, focus on the kitchen area, and they show a jack-in-the-box bag on a table amid assorted items, including unwashed dishes, an open container of orange juice, and red plastic cups. A prominent sticker on the bag reads, "Order prepared for Xana." Nearby are scattered food wrappers and a partially eating serving of French fries on the counter, likely being consumed by Kernodle before she investigates what was taking place in the upstairs disturbance. Obviously, as more evidence released, further details about the case are going to emerge. Next on the docket, testimony in the Donna Adelson case. That's right, Jeffrey LaCase provided significant testimony during the murder trial of Donna Adelson. Now, LaCase, who was in a relationship with Wendy Adelson following her separation from the Florida State University law professor Dan Markle, who was later killed, disclosed that Wendy had informed him of her brother Charlie Adelson's consideration of engaging an assassin to eliminate her former spouse. Now, LaCase recounted a discussion occurring shortly before Markle's death on July 18th of 2014, in which Wendy stated that Charlie had examined various methods to resolve the issues involving Dan Markle, including the option of contracting a professional killer at an estimated cost of a mere $15,000. LaCase described his reaction to this revelation as profoundly unsettling, noting that it caused him considerable distress and that Wendy appeared entirely earnest in her delivery. Donna Adelson represents the individual implicated in the alleged conspiracy to orchestrate Markle's assassination, which arose from a protracted dispute over child custody. Now, prior convictions in the case include her son, Charlie Adelson, his associate, Catherine Magbuana, and the perpetrators, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. Now, LaCase reported having encountered Charlie Adelson on a single occasion during a meal back on March 11th of 2014, attended also by Magbuana. He observed that Charlie expressed strong animosity towards Markle and exhibited an intensely protective demeanor towards his sister. Further, the witness testified that Donna Adelson played an active role in her daughter's divorce matters and made regular trips to Tallahassee. He added that Donna expressed dissatisfaction with his non-Jewish background. Prosecutors assert that the motive for Markle's killing was rooted in the acrimonious custody conflict with Wendy, wherein Markle insisted on maintaining the child's residence in Tallahassee, his place of employment at Florida State University, while Wendy aimed to relocate them to South Florida to be closer to her family. Now, the case detailed a conversation on July 13th, 2014, 5 days prior to the murder, in which Wendy voiced exasperation over a judicial denial of her request to move with the children to Miami, remarking that relocation would be only feasible. An incident befell Dan Markle. The following day, during a yoga session amid signs of their relationship deterioration, Wendy inquired extensively about LaCase's itinerary for the upcoming Friday, including his intended path to Tennessee, which would pass close to Markle's home. Wendy sent an email requesting no communication for a week, indicating she would initiate contact on July 21st, 2014. LaCase expressed confusion regarding the significance of that specific date. When questioned about a television set that Wendy claimed was under repair around that time of Markle's death, LaCase observed that its screen displayed damage consistent with being struck by an individual of approximately 5 to 6 feet in height. LaCase had previously alleged that members of Wendy's family intended to implicate him in the crime. He noted that his vehicle at the time, a gray Nissan Sentra, bore a resemblance to the gray Nissan Altima that the assassins had leased. Additionally, LaCase highlighted an email from Wendy to her brother Robert Adelson in which she described him as her confidential partner. He contended that This characterization was illogical, given that the children frequently mentioned him and he had interacted with Donna Adelson on several occasions. The trial continues, ladies and gentlemen. We are bringing it to you live here on Crime Talk. Go check it out. Next on the docket, Lil Nas X, aka Montero Lamar Hill. So Montero Lamar Hill, professionally known as Lil Nas, is 26, and he was arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department in the early hours of last Thursday morning. Reports indicate that he exhibited erratic behavior, including reciting song lyrics and gesturing towards passing vehicles, before allegedly advancing towards law enforcement personnel. Initially observed walking along Ventura Boulevard wearing white Western boots and only his underwear, Hill was later detained while fully unclothed. Now, according to police, he allegedly struck officers, leading to the use of force to subdue him, and he was initially charged with misdemeanor battery on a police officer and then subsequently transported to a hospital for evaluation for potential drug and overdose issues before being returned to police custody. A felony complaint details 4 charges against Mr. Hill, 3 counts of battery causing injury to a peace officer, each pertaining to a separate alleged incident involving different officers, and 1 count of resisting an executive officer. Conviction on all counts could result in a maximum sentence of 5 years in state prison. Now, Hill, aka Lil Nas, appeared in the Los Angeles County Superior Court on Monday, dressed in a blue jumpsuit, accompanied by his attorney, Christy O'Connor. He entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. The presiding judge set bail at $75,000, and should bail be posted, court ordered him to from possessing any illegal substances and require his enrollment in an outpatient drug treatment program. Now, the Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman issued a statement emphasizing that assault on law enforcement represents a significant risk to community safety and will be prosecuted rigorously, irrespective of the individual's status or public profile. Now, representatives for Hill have been contacted, but no response as of yet. Surveillance footage from the Short Stories Hotel captured Hill initially dressed in jeans, a button-up shirt, and a cowboy hat while on the property. He later removed most of his clothes and was seen proceeding along Ventura Boulevard in underwear and boots. Additional accounts described him placing an orange traffic cone on his head and informing passerbys of his intention to attend a gathering. Now, video recordings of the incident show Hill becoming aware of being filmed, turning to face the camera and reciting lyrics from Nicki Minaj's verse in Kanye West's 2019 track Monster. Well, law enforcement sources have reported that Hill has maintained appropriate conduct while in custody, remaining unobtrusive and refraining from any performances despite his celebrity status. The facility, which houses short-term detainees awaiting court appearances, provides limited amenities such as books, religious texts, basic board games, and access to local television channels. Meals consist of the standard options, including cereal and fruit for breakfast, followed by items like chicken entrees or bean and cheese burritos. Now, Hill's father, Robert Stafford, spoke to the media following the court session. Separately, family members have expressed intentions to intervene supportively, citing concerns for his well-being amid fears of outcomes similar to those experienced by actor Matthew Perry. On Wednesday, Hill shared content on his Instagram account, including a video of himself in a bathrobe playing a tambourine near assorted items captioned, "Free the people now." Another post features a selfie in a fur coat and a tiara-topped cowboy hat captioned, "Oh no, she's gone mad. Crazy, I tell you." Well, obviously, some issues going on there, whether it's mental health or let's say controlled substances related. Hopefully he gets the help he needs. Now, obviously, assault on a peace officer is a very serious charge, and in many jurisdictions carries mandatory prison. And, you know, life is tough there, Lil Nas. It's tougher when you are a convicted felon. Hope that works out for you. Obviously, don't assault police officers. It's going to be bad news. And more than likely, if you're going to do it, you should probably do it in Colorado, because we actually made it so it wasn't a mandatory felony or mandatory go to prison with a felony conviction here in our state. But hey, what can you do? Next on the docket, a sleazy stepdad is busted for fathering a child with an 11-year-old. A loathsome stepfather finds himself in a bit of hot water, charged with violating his 11-year-old stepdaughter, who astonishingly delivered his offspring amid the squalor of their Oklahoma residence. His spouse, she's tagged as the enabler in this grim farce, both staring down the barrel of lifelong incarceration. Please meet Dustin Walker and his better half, Cherie Walker, now the unwilling stars of a nightmare scenario. Their brood of 6 kids, topped by the unfortunate 11-year-old, saw her give birth on August 16th in Muscogee County. The duo played dumb, insisting they had no clue about the pregnancy until, well, a little DNA testing nailed Dustin as the father with a confidence level that, leaves no room for doubt, coming in at 99.9% surety that he's the dad. Anyway, Dustin Walker emerges as the undeniable paternal match for the newborn, courtesy of those forensic wizardry things that takes place. This ranks among the gravest incidents of child exploitation and abandonment I've ever tangled with, proclaimed the Muscogee County Assistant District Attorney Janet Hudson, her words dripping with justified outrage. Adding a little insult to injury, the Walkers face additional counts for subjecting their young charges, ranging from toddlers to tweens, to living conditions that would make a landfill blush. The youngest were discovered wallowing in canine excrement without a tire, according to the legal complaint. All 6 were whisked away to safety by authorities last Tuesday. Now, the pair got cuffed initially for child neglect post-delivery, but the plot thickened Monday when those incriminating DNA results dropped, upgrading the rap sheet. Now, Dustin now contends with direct assault charges, while Cherie is accused of turning a blind eye, or worse. The neglect beef includes skimping on medical aid for the birthing preteen. Now, Cherie Walker stands accused of facilitating the horrific misconduct. And enter the plot's wild card. The girl's maternal grandmother, Michelle, last name withheld, who chatted with a local station, and she swears the family was clueless and floats alternative paternity theories. DNA be damned. They painted my kin as villains, she protested, but they're doting parents through and through. Anyway, Michelle insists her granddaughter fingers a neighborhood 12-year-old as the culprit. She's adamant it was him. They were just experimenting. You know how kids are, she quipped, in a denial that's equal parts tragic and a little bit tone deaf. Anyway, the Walkers continue to languish behind bars on a $100,000 bond for each of them, with a court date penciled in for September 3rd. This could mean trading their chaotic homestead for a life of state-sponsored accommodations. And, well, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. I kind of mentioned this in the past, but we've done these kind of cases. They're ugly, nasty, gross. It's a stepdaughter, but still under most statutes, if they're actually adopted, it's still considered incest. It's just gross. There's nothing. An 11-year-old, like, this guy is the worst of the worst. And mom allowing it to take place, absolutely terrible. I think I mentioned the case once. It was the House of Horrors is what it was called. And the victims were, they were on CNN. It was a horrific trial. And once again, DNA proved that my client was the father of the adopted child, so to speak. And it was just ugly. And after the first witness, i.e. the victim in the case, the client realized that this was not going well. And he said, I'll plead guilty, but give my wife probation, whereupon she promptly failed. I didn't represent her wife because that would be a conflict, but you know where it was coming. And in this particular place, they had no running water. And yes, they came up with all kinds of alternate theories. Yes, even basting, ladies and gentlemen. Use your imagination where they got that stuff from. But of course, this house didn't have any running water because that's how much squalor there was in that particular case. It was horrific. Next on the docket, a daughter turns state witness in the Cliffside murder mystery. A young woman is set to spill the beans on her own mother in a chilling murder case. The victim, long presumed vanished into thin air, turned up as skeletal evidence in an Alabama national park, proving that some disappearances have a rocky ending. Well, Jesse Eden Kelly, hailing from Union City, Pennsylvania, cleverly dodged the electric chair, or whatever Alabama's version is, by pleading guilty to straight-up murder in DeKalb County this Monday, as reported by the courts. She's been staring down capital murder charges for the demise of Mary Elizabeth Isabel. But a last-minute plea deal, unveiled just as the jury selection was about to kick off, netted her a mere 40-year vacation behind bars. Now, Kelly's poised to play star witness against her mother, Loretta K. Carr, who's still facing that capital murder rap for the same grim deed. Now, Carr's courtroom showdown is slated for December, so mark your calendars for those fireworks. Now, as previously reported, Isabel was last seen breathing in 2021, only to be reported missing that December by her former spouse. Fast forward to 2023, when Carr, 45 at the time, and Kelly, a young 22, found themselves in cuffs for the alleged slaying. Prosecutors painted a vivid picture. Carr supposedly gave Isabel an unsolicited skydiving lesson by shoving her off a cliff in the Little River Canyon National Preserve, about 75 miles southeast of Huntsville, sealing her fate around October 18th of 2021. The fatal plunge allegedly capped off an abduction, or botched one, from Isabel's digs, where telltale scuffle marks hinted at a less than cordial visit. Now, the enigma unraveled when Isabel's bones surfaced on June 28, 2023, with DNA confirmation dropping 2 days later, ironically on the date that would have marked her 39th spin around the sun. The case languished in cold case limbo for years until a June 2023 tip lit the fuse, prompting swift arrests of the dynamic duo. The DeKalb County's top sheriff noted that the trio of women were all tangled in the same social web, courtesy of a shared boyfriend, because nothing says complicated like a love triangle gone lethally awry. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be interesting. Would you sell out your mom so you get out of prison and you have a shot 40 years in prison, where you're probably going to do 30 plus while you're eligible for parole, but you still get a life when you're in your 20s? What do I say? The threat of imminent incarceration tends to break the bonds of loyalty, even among family, ladies and gentlemen. That's why if you're going to do crime, and we're not saying you should do crime, in fact, we're saying don't do crime, but if you're going to do it by yourself. The more people involved, the more likely that somebody's going to roll. And guess what? The first one in a multi-co-defendant case always gets the best deal. Next on the docket, an update on the Travis Decker manhunt. So police in Washington state have redirected their search for Travis Decker to a designated campsite within a national park. Now, Decker faces charges for first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping in connection with the deaths of his daughter, Paitlin, who was only 9, Evelyn, who was only 8, and Olivia, who was just 5. And he is accused of suffocating the children by placing plastic bags over their heads in Leavenworth, Washington. Now, the girls' bodies were discovered on June 2nd in Decker's abandoned vehicle at the Rock Island campground. Following his failure to return, the girls' bodies were discovered on June 2nd in Decker's abandoned vehicle at the Rock Island campground, following his failure to return the girls to their mother on May 30th. Now, Decker's whereabouts remain unknown. And nearly 3 months after the incident, the FBI's Seattle office has announced it will coordinate efforts among federal, state, and local agencies to conduct a targeted search near the Rock Island campground. Now, search teams are clearing dense vegetation to re-examine areas for potential evidence. Now, the sheriff in charge there held a news conference yesterday and stated that investigators remain committed to locating Decker, and he acknowledged that public frustration but emphasized the need for patience, particularly ahead of the Labor Day weekend. And the sheriff affirmed that the search would continue until Decker is ultimately apprehended, regardless of whether he is found dead or alive. The sheriff did express some skepticism about Decker's ability to survive extended periods in the wilderness, despite some prior military training in the Army as well as the National Guard. There's no evidence has linked Decker specifically to this particular campground that they're searching, but the police are revisiting the site due to an overgrowth that may have obscured clues. Now, the search area located in the Okanogan-Wenatchee National Forest west of the campground is restricted to authorized personnel, including law enforcement, rescue teams, and permit holders until August 27th. Now, conditions in the terrain include steep slopes, thick underbrush, limited cell service, and variable weather. Previous search operations had not produced results, including a false lead suggesting Decker was in Idaho, which involved a misidentification of a local resident. Now, Decker and his former wife, Whitney Decker, divorced back in 2022 with shared custody arrangements, allowing him time with the girls. Decker enlisted in the Army in 2013, deployed to Afghanistan, and later joined the Washington National Guard in 2021. At the time of the incident, he was undergoing disciplinary proceedings for absenteeism and was experiencing some mental health challenges, including a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. Court orders required him to undergo mental health treatment and anger management counseling for domestic violence, which coincidentally, he did not complete. By May 30th, when Decker collected his daughters from their mother's residence, he was reportedly homeless and residing in his truck. Now, Whitney Decker informed police that she did not view him as a threat and believed that he maintained a positive relationship with the children. Well, that didn't quite work out very well, did it? It was not a positive relationship because he killed them. Not blaming mom. I get it. She wanted her kids to have a father there. But you would hope the dad would have set himself aside maybe and said, you know what, maybe now is not a good time. I feel like I could do something really dramatic. Sometimes people suffering mental health issues don't think about those types of things. Next on the docket, this day in legal history, August 26th, 1725, the explanatory charter of Massachusetts Bay is issued. What's that? Well, it's clarifying governance, rights, and legal structures in the colony under British rule, modifying the original 1691 charter to strengthen royal authority over appointments and legislation. This is interesting. 1907, Harry Houdini. Ever heard of him? That's right. The escape artist performs a chained underwater escape in San Francisco, testing legal boundaries of public performance regulations, safety ordinances, and liability laws for entertaining acts. But like most things in life, ladies and gentlemen, did San Francisco really care? No. They just wanted to charge a fee so they could get a cut. Because remember, ain't nothing legal, excuse the poor grammar, ain't nothing legal until the government gets their cut in everything. Let's go to August 26, 1920. The 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, granting women the right to vote, is certified by the Secretary of State, Bainbridge Colby, culminating decades of suffrage activism and expanding federal voting rights for women. How about August 26, 1980? John Burgess plants a bomb at Harvey's Resort in Nevada, resulting in a complex extortion case, obviously followed by an FBI investigation and a trial that highlighted, bomb disposal and criminal forensics. And then we got 1986 on this date. Robert Chambers commits the preppy killer murder of Jennifer Levin in New York City, leading to a sensational trial that influenced legal discussions on manslaughter defenses, including the controversial rough sex defense claim. And then on this date in 2019, an Oklahoma court orders Johnson & Johnson to pay $572 million in the first major opioid crisis trial, setting a precedent for corporate liability and public health lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies. Of course, they were trying to recover all the money they paid out for treating people with opioid addictions. And of course, you're not supposed to let doctors prescribe opioids to people that shouldn't be getting them because, well, they're supposed to be controlled. And now I think if you go to the doctor, I think they can only give you a 3-day worth of a prescription, because after day 3, you're pretty much addicted, and then you got to withdraw. So now they only prescribe opioids in 3 days. Not that I know, haven't had a surgery, ever needed it, but actually went to a CLE. It was rather interesting. Next on the docket, how about a legal quote? So in criminal law, consciousness of guilt refers to circumstantial evidence derived from a defendant's post-offense conduct that may indicate awareness of his guilt. A quote here, or the legal instruction, says, if the defendant made a false or misleading statement before this trial relating to the charged crime, knowing the statement was false or intending to mislead, that conduct may show he was aware of his guilt of the crime, and you may consider it in determining his guilt. If you conclude that the defendant made the statement, it is up to you to decide its meaning and importance. However, evidence that the defendant made such a statement cannot prove guilt by itself. So they like to have a little corroboration. So this is commonly applied in cases where actions such as making false statements, fleeing the scene, or tampering with evidence suggests a guilty mindset, as supported by precedent in U.S. jurisprudence, ladies and gentlemen. So one of the other reasons why the good old defense attorney would always tell you to shut your mouth is because anything you say can and will be used against you. And if it turns out maybe it's not true, guess what? It could show that you're lying and that you were guilty. Consciousness of guilt, right? Always keep your mouth shut, ladies and gentlemen. It is malpractice unless you have an agreement to go in and talk with a detective about anything. Always say, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer.
All right, lawyer, lawyer, lawyer.
And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. In the wee hours of August 25th, a Sunshine State resident, also known as Florida, found himself in hot water after allegedly turning a romantic rendezvous into a solo screening session, well, with some disastrous results. Please meet Donald Naples. He stands accused of delivering a cranial crash to his paramour when she objected to his multitasking during their intimate encounter. So court records reveal that the pair, who had been amorously entangled for about a year and a half, were midway through a mutually agreed upon escapade when Naples decided to supplement the screen with some explicit on-screen diversions. The impromptu addition, however, proved a mood killer for the 50-year-old companion. So irked by the distraction, she reportedly urged him to cease the cinematic detour and handle matters a little more independently, i.e. himself. What followed was not a graceful exit, but an escalating spat culminating in Naples purportedly using his forehead as an improved battering ram against her nose, resulting in some extensive bleeding that necessitated a hospital visit. Post-arrest, Naples exercised his right to remain silent, offering no commentary to the police. Given his prior brush with the battery charges, this latest allegation has been upgraded to felony status, and he is currently in custody on a $10,000 bond, with strict instructions that if he were to make bond, to steer clear of his sexual partner. Now, Naples' legal ledger isn't blank. Last year saw him nabbed for methamphetamine-related woes, though he bargained down to a mere paraphernalia misdemeanor. His history also boasts entries for robberies, cannabis custody, defying officers, and skirting probation terms, proving that old habits can indeed headbutt hard. And for those who didn't pick it up, let's just break it down for you. They were in the acts of sexual intercourse when he turned on the TV to watch porn. Partner, not impressed, says stop, finish it yourself, whereupon things turned ugly. For those that didn't kind of read between the lines, that's what took place. All right, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.